Hello to the chicos and the chicas. This is Inside My Head, chapter 3 of the sponsored version, sponsored by Mo. Shout out to the lovely man. Thank you so much once again for supporting and sponsoring this mini series of 5 episodes of Inside My Head before the 30th of Christmas. And today we have got a Slav defense on the menu, which is quite ironic because, of course, this is my recommended opening against 1d4 in the beginners 1d4 d5 repertoire. However, now we are transitioning into one of my favorite lines in the beginners 1d4 white repertoire, which is the Catalan gambit, to which my opponent says a big fat no. The reason why we call this the Catalan gambit, because black here is encouraged to take and then defend the pawn. Now if they play instead bishop d6, it is very likely going to turn into a regular Catalan. Queen d3 is going to be my next move. The purpose of this move is to defend the pawn and also to play e4. Just checking if my mic is working, but I think we are good. So yeah, defend, attack is the point. Now the only downside to queen d3 is that it sits in this diagonal a little bit awkwardly. And so b6, bishop a6 is a plan. It's nothing to worry about, but it's something to keep in mind that black can do. Now we are anticipating e5. And from memory, I'm trying to think if I need to play h3 and then e4, or I can go e4 right away. The idea of h3 is that if e5, e4, ed, 94, that's a terrible move. 94, then they have 95, and if the queen drops back, then bishop g4. Now the reason why knight b6 is a terrible move here, and in fact it is usually a terrible move in all Slav and semi-Slav setups, is because the knight is desperately needed on d7 to support the central breaks, and as soon as it abandons the d7 square, now I'm just stalling because I'm not sure which way to go. Now black has neither push, and that's very depressing, right? Like now he's really in trouble in terms of how to break the center. I'm anticipating knight d5, but that move allows me to conquer the center with e4, which is, by the way, why I pulled back to d3 in the end instead of b3, so that after knight takes, pawn takes, this one wouldn't hang. So yeah, knight d5, e4, and now after take, I managed to conquer the entirety of the center, and on top of that, I have got a threat of e5. Now knight b4, I reckon, makes things even worse. The only thing that I need to respect about this move is that if I play queen e2, then b6 is coming. And even that is questionable, because then I have e5, bishop a6, queen d1, bishop takes f1. Let's say bishop takes f1. And I have got the two pieces for the rook. Bishop e7, takes f6, bishop takes f6, a3, knight d5, knight e4. That looks very good. So we can go queen e2. What I'm thinking now is whether it's worth coming back home altogether to d1 instead to even disallow that. So because after a move like queen d1, I would anticipate bishop e7. Yeah, I do think it's worth it actually, because queen e2 would give them an easy plan to play for, even if it's not best. But queen d1 just goes like, well, buddy, what do you do? By the way, shout out to the guy who named himself Muhammad Ali, 2701, who is my opponent. He's only 2126, by the way, but that's okay. Alright, so now we are in a very fun Catalan scenario, where we dominate the center, and we can choose from myriads of very good-looking plans. I wonder if I need to worry about c5 in terms of playing for b4. The only reason why I'm a bit reluctant to do that is because then after knight c7, this pawn a5 becomes a very annoying plan. So queen c2 comes to me naturally, but then comes c5. Do I have d5 there? Take, knight takes, queen takes, knight g5. Hits the queen, creates a mate threat. And if queen f5 with bishop e4, that's actually quite interesting. Alternatively, also, I have got rook d1 takes, knight takes. Which leaves not an awful lot of good squares for the queen. Queen b6 and then b4. Yeah, I feel like I'm spoiled for choice here. And I also feel like 10 minutes is still insufficient time for me to play inside my head. Yeah, let's go queen c2. Let's go queen c2. If he doesn't play c5, I really don't know what they do, because then, yeah. The more that it gets delayed, the worse it gets for black is basic. Yeah, this is not good. This is not good at all. Okay, I'm just going to develop now my pieces. I'm gonna bring the rooks around, and then, I don't know, eventually I might go for an e5 break and start playing on the king side. But for the time being, I just would like to enjoy the fact that my opponent is incredibly passive and has no obvious moves. Note that c5 I don't think is doable anymore because of d5. And so the majority of the moves he's playing is now just passive sitting. The reason why I played b4 now is because having moved the rook off of the a file, the idea of a5 is going to be far less effective. Although even here I think they should play knight c7, a5. Yeah. The other benefit of knight c7 is the fact that after e5, he would have the d5 outpost. This is why I played bishop f4, by the way, and not bishop e3 earlier on. Well, apart from the fact that it controls a few squares, is because bishop e3 is well met by knight g4. But if here they hit with knight h5, which they eventually did, then I slide back to e3, and now the knight is goofy on h5. Now they play g6, which makes very little sense. Now I'm stuck between putting the rooks here and here, or here or here. Somehow I feel like I would like to put it on d1. I don't know why, but it just felt like the better choice. Also, g6 was an extremely odd move, but I feel like I need to be conscious of time and pace the game well. Ooh, I have an idea. We're going to play e5, guys. The reason why I did this is because I really want to chuck this knight into e4 and start sort of progressing towards the king side. And my plan here, which may be a little bit silly, was to play g4 to deny knight here altogether. But maybe I should play knight e4 first to deny f6. Knight e4, knight f5, bishop back to c1. And then I can kick it anytime I want. But then they have knight h4. Okay, let me think about this for a sec. By the way, I've got a pawn to pick up here, but I don't even bother looking at that. So yeah, g4, f6 takes, bishop takes, and then g4 sticks out by like a sore thumb. Although then I have knight e5. Yeah, no, I'm talking nonsense. We'll go g4. Let's go quirky. We want to kill this knight altogether. Now knight f5 is not possible. If h5, we have h3. All good. Knight is coming to d5. I'm not concerned too much about that. So let's go knight e4. Knight d5 is incoming. And then I reckon I'm going to go bishop h6. Yeah. Now how I intend to follow this up, I don't know. g4 was a bit of a wonky move. It's definitely not one of the prettiest moves I've ever played, but yeah, it will do. It will do. Yeah, I thought that he might break me there or try to break me there, so we'll take like this to open this one up. We're definitely going to take it one more time because it also allows me to play for this in some cases. Maybe bishop c5, knight c5, queen. Nah, that's bollocks. Now, queen a5 is the likely follow-up to this. Knight f6 check, though. Yeah, knight f6 is forcing bishop takes, right? Because if knight takes, then pawn takes, and then both bishops are hanging. That's an oopsie-daisy. So yeah, knight f6, bishop takes, which is great news. Pawn takes. Knight takes. Queen b2. Whoa. Hello. Let's do this. Let's do this, ladies. This is looking yummy. This is looking yummy. Rook on d1 pays off now. I feel like I'm doing a very, very poor job of explaining my thought process, but I feel like I have to stay with him at least a little bit in terms of time management, and therefore I have very little time to commentate, but we'll do an analysis afterwards, don't worry. So yeah, anyway, so knight takes, as far as I can see, knight takes, pawn takes wins a piece for me, whereas now after queen b2 that long diagonal is gonna be extremely delicate. Rook c5 loses to pawn takes, when takes a queen allows me to get a new queen on f8 with checkmate, so that's not playable. So knight f6 is more or less forced. Yeah, I do think that this is over. The only thing I'm not sure about is that after knight f6, if I go queen b2, they might go knight here, and then I only win an exchange. Oh, but then I have g5 knight here and then queen here. Okay, that's interesting, because the alternative was to take the knight, as ugly as it sounds. I know it's ugly, but bear with me. King takes, and then queen b2 threatens g5, winning the full piece, as well as hits the bishop on d7. But something in me rebels against giving up this beautiful bishop for this lame mule. It just doesn't feel right. It shouldn't be the move that I play. I really want to go queen b2 here. But knight e8, how do I beat that? It looks so bad. Okay, let's go g5, knight d5. And then rook e1 would threaten with take, and then take the e knight. But it's a bit too slow. So let's say I take the exchange, they take back, I go check, king e7. Then rook here, but then knight g7. Okay, take, queen b2. Let's say rook b8, let's say, I don't know, queen slides back. Now, I don't know. I'm going to overwrite my... Oh my god. Ugh. That was a mouse slip. I was about to say that I'm going to overwrite my calculation with my chess sense. Oh man. Bugger. Dang it. That is such a bad one. That is such a bad one. I mean, I guess now he can go back with this knight, right? Yeah. And things are not so clear, unfortunately. This looks like an ugly, stupid move. I wanted to defend this pawn, but it doesn't serve any meaningful purpose. Shouldn't have done it. I just didn't know what to do. Maybe bishop takes, queen c5 is coming. Okay, I was happy about that because I thought I had this then, don't I? Hello? That was weird. Now we might get some tactics also with rook here, and then taking this maybe. But I guess queen b3, rook takes, and then queen d5 is going to come in with some queen trade scenarios. Which, by the way, is not necessarily that bad now. Queen takes, bishop takes, rook here. And the two knights are absolutely horrific. In particular, the one on g7. Yeah, so that was expected. So now queen d5 is incoming. Yeah, I will just take... Ooh, hello, this is hanging. Oopsies. Okay, let's put pieces in the center, like the coach would tell you. Never mind, rook takes a7. 97, by the way, is a threat. Yeah, actually, this is still looking quite okay. This is still looking semi-decent, I would say. Queen b7 check, we have c6, then they will sack an exchange. Oh, that's interesting. Can I go queen b7, c6, rook takes, and then rook takes? Rook c4 check, rook takes, rook takes. I mean, I do in the exchange in the end, but yeah, no, g4 is hanging with check, so that's not playable. Okay, so queen b7 check. Ooh. Really? Wait, isn't 97 just game over now? What am I missing? The knight has to go back, and in the worst case scenario, I pick off an exchange. I don't understand this. Yeah, queen d5, knight d5, I pick off this. It's real. Okay, let's go. Let's go. Oh, no. I just called it. He should have gone queen b7. I just called it and then I blundered into it. And ironically, though, it's not a blunder because queen b7 I can play f3. Knight can't take because mate, and if queen takes, I take this. But luckily, he completely botched it, and now we're just winning. Yeah, this is over. Rook takes, rook takes. Okay, this was a tragically terrible game with mouse slips, blunders sprinkled in, absolute misery and some. Note that if king takes, I can still take with the rook, because if he takes, I have check and I pick off the knight on g7. So in some ways, it was an even worse capture than rook takes would have been, because now this pin is very, very unpleasant. And now I might not need to worry about the pawn, and I can go in for the kill like this. Or even rook trade actually is a very powerful tool here. Because that pin is just, yeah, that's, so I told you, they had to do that. This is still not a threat. So I can still consider going here, 98 going in. Yeah, let's do that actually. Let's do that. So take, we have got back rank mate, and otherwise I'm just going for 7th. Piggies on the 7th. Now he has knight c7. But then the entirety of the army is paralyzed. Like nothing can move. Which is always a cute way to go about life. I wonder if I will play g5 to shut the f-pawn moves down. Yeah, I'm not sure how I would respond to this. Maybe king here. But then f6 and then e5 is a bit obnoxious. Yeah, I don't know. I'll have to think about this. Maybe after knight, yeah, after knight here we just drop the bishop back and go here and kick it. Yeah, that's it. Let's keep it simple. Bishop here. Hitting the knight, and as soon as the knight goes, we go in for the carnage. I need to watch the check, but it doesn't seem concerning to me. Know that this is hanging. Yeah, it's over. Game over. GG. Yeah, whew, okay, this was not pretty, guys. But then again, it can't always be pretty. And one has to accept it, that sometimes it's gonna get ugly. Sometimes it's gonna get ugly and there's nothing you can do about it. You just got to win the uglies. Yeah. Okay. All right. This wasn't anything to write home about. It featured a fair few things that I think were educational and instructive, but yeah. I will show you the evaluation just very briefly. Let's go full screen. So we got a 87.8 versus an 82. No blunders. Now, I take that any day of the week. If I manage to play a game of chess where I do not blunder, that's already good news. The one mistake and the one miss is a bit painful, but I guess one of them must have been Queen A2. If Queen A2 was the miss, that means it was a good quality game. Let's see. Yes! Yes, so that means good news because that was mouse slip. So now let's go through. Actually, you know what? I will leave us on this screen so that you guys can... I'm a bit off, and I'm such a handsome fella. I need to be in the screen proper. Alright. Alright, so let's have a look at the opening, which was all good. Yeah, I told you that this was no bueno. Nah, this layout is not good. Let's go back to normal. Yeah, so knight b6 wasn't good. Queen d3 good, e4 good. Queen d1 was not best, so maybe Queen e2 was better. Let's have a look. Yeah, like I said, I explained the logic. I am happy to accept that this was objectively better, but I think what I did was a very practical call. Queen c2 was great. Bishop f4 was best. b4 was a bit meh. What did the engine want me to do? Rook d1? Yeah. And it's the other rook. Okay, fair enough. b4, knight h5, I knew that was garbo. g6, rook d1 best. e5 was good, but not best. Yeah, I was thinking about knight e5, but I don't always enjoy trying to crack these positions up because often I don't like my knight here. But the engine provides a very instructive line here with d5. Now, these are the types of moves that a lot of people, including myself, don't look at all because this just looks wrong. But it turns out that ED, and after bishop takes d5, our pieces are so immensely superior to theirs that it's not even funny. And I can actually block off the c file with the bishop and then play queen b. Oh, hello, knight c4 rather. And yeah, it's all fine and dandy. The black knights are basically just tragedies. But even now, as I'm looking at it, this doesn't feel like a +5, which is what it is by the engine's measure. Okay, so we went e5. It was a-okay. g4 was best. Taking it, baby. Taking it any day. Bishop h6 was best. Okay. I played knight e4. Bishop h6 good. Tuck, tuck, tuck. Best, 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 best. And I was right. I was right. I couldn't prove it calculation-wise, but I had a sense that queen b2 was better than takes. Queen b2 is +464. Bishop g7 is +2.5. What I had missed was this. Oops. Although I'm not so sure why it's relevant, because now I can just play g5 and have the two pieces for the rook and be completely winning. But queen b2 was the way to go. So what I couldn't quite see was that after knight g8... Oh, the engine didn't want... Oh, okay, so the engine wants to go here. Knight d5. And I calculated bishop f8, king f8, queen check, king e7 to be winning for me. What I didn't realize when I calculated it is that after queen h7, knight e5, we can just completely kill them on f7. So this is how it goes. Bishop f8, king f8. And this is where I stopped the calculation. And I called it winning, but I didn't see a clear-cut, you know, like brutal breakthrough type of win. But it is there. It's simply knight e5. And next queen takes h7 and the black position collapses. Because now we have got two threats. And to be fair, this is what I was going for, right? So I did want to play queen b2, so this would have occurred. This is the line I wanted to go down to, and this is where I would have restarted thinking. And I don't want to sound silly or full of myself, but almost certainly I would have found knight e5, bishop, and queen takes h7. The reason why this is instructive for many, by the way, is because, including some of my students who play similar setups, I find it that club level players very often struggle with converting structures like this, where we dominate the center, but there is no very clear-cut plan available of how to crush them. And I think that I did manage to demonstrate a way to go from this superior position that you see right on the board now, perfect development and good pieces, to a completely winning position, which I then botched by a mouse slip. So overall, I think I did do justice to this position in terms of conversion. We kept on building the positional tension, and now the knight f6 check ensured that we were completely killing it. I will be very honest with you guys. I completely missed bishop a4 here. Just in the midst of, you know, blowing my own trumpet, I must admit that I completely omitted this from my calculation. If white is totally winning after take, and then rook takes d1, but it's absolutely inexcusable that I would miss something like that. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, that was chapter 3, episode 3 of the sponsored mini-series of Inside My Head. This time around we defeated Muhammad Ali. Not a lot of people did that, by the way. Who was rated 21-23. And as such, I suppose it was more on the higher end of the quality of games that I present on the Inside My Head series. Please, guys, don't forget to press that like button. Please don't forget to sub. Please comment down below and super thank me if you can. And that is going to be it for me now. I will be back with the next video soon. Thanks for watching.